Good morning. My name is Chris Fox, and today I want to talk a little bit about why I don't use AI in my writing. This is a hot topic now because almost everybody uses AI in some capacity. You're using it for research, you're using it to make covers, you're using it to design plots. Some people are using it to write the entire book. Some people are using it to create an audiobook out of it using AI voice translation. People are using AI to translate. And I will say that might be one area where I'd consider it, but I'd still want a native speaker who could take the AI output, read it, and say, okay, I got to correct all these things to it. So it might make it easier, but you still want to work with a professional for translation. Like I would be hesitant to use AI for that. So why? Why am I such a Luddite in this capacity when I used to be a software engineer? I was in the cutting edge of AI when it was starting to develop back in 2014. That was what I used to do before I became an author. AI is trained. So you give it data and you train it. And the AIs that we're using today are large scale AIs that are being trained on huge pools of data. Huge, uncontrolled, polluted pools of data, which means that all sorts of weird mistakes creep in. You can remember that for a while there, and they still to a certain degree, lots of AI images have 6 fingers. That's very, very common, where you'll see a person with 6 fingers on one hand or something weird, some little detail that just doesn't quite fit, and you're like, hey, maybe that's an AI image. Well, imagine that with it spitting out plotting advice to you, because it's exactly what it's going to do. Imagine it generating your novel. That's exactly what it's going to do. It's going to get it right enough that if you give it a cursory examination, it passes the sniff test probably. And if you don't look too closely, or if you're a novice, so you're like, I just don't really know how a story is supposed to work exactly to know where these flaws are. So AI is going to introduce those flaws into your work, and it's going to be really difficult to spot. The second issue is AI is only ever going to give you the same ideas it gives everybody else. It's going to think in exactly the same box and produce exactly the same material. If you tell it, hey, I want you to write something and I want it to sound just like Chris Fox, it's going to go look for everything I've written. And that's what it's going to give you. And you're going to hear phrases from me, but with massaging by the AI to give you the content that you're looking for. But they'll try to style it a lot like me because I'll drop in snippets of things I have actually said. But you're like, oh my God, that sounds like Chris. It's cool and it sounds cool, but it's still ultimately a parlor trick. And the problem with this is the same thing as when I was a kid way back in the Stone Age and literally a different millennium in the 1980s. I was told by my teacher, my math teacher, that I needed to memorize my times tables because I would not always have access to a calculator. I don't know that that was the best argument to give us then, and I don't think it was super accurate because some of us even back then had calculators on our watches. Like it was not necessarily true. What I would have explained to the class back then, if I had been the teacher, is mastery comes from practice and full understanding of the material. So if you want to be a true master at something, you need to understand every part of it, and that comes from the fundamentals. If you ever want to hear from the greatest basketball player of all time on being a basketball player, talk to Michael Jordan, and you're going to hear the word fundamentals over and over and over. Using AI removes a lot of the fundamentals. Sitting down brainstorming like John Cleese and coming up with your ideas and finding your creativity, that's part of the process of being a creative. And you are a living computer. You are doing exactly the same thing an AI does, and you're synthesizing based on everything you've been trained on. And that gives you a unique point of view that no other AI is going to have. So if we are going to consider this craft long term and you want to be a master author, you want to get to the point where you're like a tradesman, like a master, then you need to really practice your craft and you've got to master those fundamentals. I do have a friend that is using AI in some ways I think are creative for a new author. He's asking it to kick the tires on his plotting. So he'll do some plotting and he didn't have another author to ask. He's like, hey, listen, what do you think of this? That seems creative to me. I've seen people do a lot of drafting for covers where they get drafts that they want to use. I wouldn't publish an AI cover. I have good relationships with all my cover artists. That feels kind of soulless to be like, no thanks, we're done. Especially when they can produce exactly what I'm looking for, and that's much harder to get with AI. But you can do that if you want to. There are certainly avenues that you could pursue that are not going to stop you from also pursuing your craft as an author. And I'd encourage you to please talk about them in the comments below. Ways that you have found to make AI make your life more streamlined or better. Anyway, there's probably a lot that I could say on AI and its uses. I do think that as time goes on, it'll get better at teaching you, the author, the fundamentals. And as that happens, that's going to be an amazing tool, like for my son's generation especially. But it isn't there yet. And for now, I really do think the best way you can perform as an author is to do the fundamentals. If you have to use AI or think that it's a more valuable use of your time to create certain content, I'm not judging you. I'm just saying why I don't do it and what I think the drawbacks of it are, because I see a lot of people rushing into it. Now, a lot of people ask me, you're somebody who looks for like cutting edge opportunities. What would you do? If I was a young and hungry Chris today, you always have to think how people are not thinking. So if people are thinking, ooh, I could make novels for this. Well, everybody can write a novel. Ordinary people can write a novel. You know what they can't do? Make a video game or produce an entire animated television show. Like, let's say a season per book in your series. And with AI, you can. You can create your own AI tools that will do basically every part of that equation. You can get an AI that's going to write code for you. You can have images created kind of exactly as you need them, assets created as needed. And if there's some parts of the process that you can't do, you can usually bootstrap that and pay somebody in the world, some real world professional, like through Upwork, to fill in the gaps there. But you can do a lot more than one person in-house could have done a generation ago. And so we could get back to, instead of 1,500 people on a video game team, one person in his garage sits down and makes an incredible gaming experience or does an entire anime style season using tools that they've created. Those tools are going to get more and more sophisticated over time. So if you're into animation, this is a great time for that. If you like creating content, not the rank and file sitting down video editing, although that is fun, but like if you actually like the creative end of things and you want the rest of it automated away, that's coming. So really, that's where I would be. I would be creating in marketplaces that are not tapped. And I'll be honest, that's probably what I'll end up doing, because I could take all of the books that I've written and create a rich visual universe that I then spit out there. And that's such a less crowded marketplace. That's less crowded than books were when I got to do it in 2014. That is undiscovered country. There's barely anything coming out compared to books. So you could very quickly jump into that marketplace and be ahead of everybody else. I'd be working on that. Is your dream book specifically? Okay, stick with it. But if it's not, if you just want to tell stories, do you want to do it in a medium that will sell for more money and will reach 10 to 20 times as large an audience? Think about animation. Think about creating your own video game if you are already proficient in that. And as far as those of you who are wisely worried, well, if I learn software engineering, am I going to lose my job to AI? Yes and no. AI is going to create a whole bunch of crazy useful tools for developers. And instead of needing a whole bunch of developers to aid you and do the component pieces, AI can do a lot of that stuff for you, but you still need a software architect to assemble all that stuff at the end of the day and keep it running. So it's not a dead field. It's just more specialized than it used to be. So if you have ideas and you want to run a video game company, learn all that stuff and just go out and do it. Like I would be doing that and like not sleeping and binging on caffeine, trying to keep that stuff going. That's what I would be doing with AI. But as far as writing, use it if it's a tool for you. And please tell us in the comments, how is AI a tool for you in your writing? What benefits have you gleaned from it? What am I missing? Like, Chris, you should be doing this if you're aware of something. If not, if you agree, I'd love to hear that too. But whatever you think about the situation. In any case, I do need to get back to the writing. Part of the reason I'm recording this video this week instead of the third video in the How to Write Your Novel series is I'm not happy with my progress on the novel, so I want more time. All right, guys, I'm going to get back to the writing, and I will see you next week.